Boy, the chat is silent. Oh, there we go.
Good evening. Eating from Canada, eh? Justin, the next video coming up is on Dimaco. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. Be up on Saturday. Hey, Brent.
Yeah, Sean, I saw your email about that. Chris had not talked to me about what the request was for, so I haven't gotten that far yet. I have been stuck in editing land with the Dimaco video because we had a few issues with it, and then those were sorted out, but it's going to be a good one. And that'll go up on Saturday.
Philly. Chicago. We were just talking the other day about how I miss some of the Chicago-style pizza we used to get in Wisconsin. Gary, aim low.
Oh, no, I'm here. You just don't get much of me tonight. I don't think he could handle one of these chats alone. Thank you, Dan. We're all good. Hoping that as our governor has started to open up the great state of Texas starting tomorrow, that with safeguards and everything in place, that it will be a healthy transition. There's no sound.
Everybody else seems to be hearing us. Turn the volume up. Turn the volume up, Gary. God, with all that Air Force stuff, you know, all that high-tech stuff, you think you'd be able to figure out how to turn the volume up.
Okay, I think we are going to, yep, everybody can hear. Carrie, you're the only one that can. Fix it, Carrie. Okay, we're going to get started. Oh, goodness. Let's get started in a good way tonight. Okay. We have a few questions that were submitted earlier from DonorBox. If you guys would like to donate during the chat, you can do so by clicking the $, and your question will get guaranteed response and priority. And we also take donations on DonorBox, which is our preferred method since Google rapes us and takes 30%. I just popped that link down in there. You can put your question in the notes section of your donation, and I get an email, and it'll be the same thing. Otherwise, you can also send an email separately if you prefer to do that. Yeah, we're actually running the thing about Whataburger. We're running a few minutes late because I had to feed this man his Q&A Whataburger. Tim has a question from DonorBox. Thank you, Tim. His question is more. I read this earlier. He would like our Q&As to be structured in a way that other ones are, as far as timestamps in the description box. Because he liked to go back and search for things. I think that's a really, I've heard that before. I think that's definitely something that could be done. If it'll be done every single time, I don't know, because again, that would fall on me, and because I already am responsible for the business from A to Z, other than being on camera doing, the face of the business. It would be a lot for me to do. Because of the fact that we have Q&A so often, and they tend to go anywhere between, the average is usually an hour and a half. So that's a lot of going through and time stamping. So
and we do a lot of these.
I would love to say that that's, I could start doing that tomorrow, but I don't know. I can try, but I'm pretty overwhelmed with all of the aspects of what I do now. But I'll definitely keep it in the front of my mind if I have a moment to do that. The next one is from John on DonorBox. Thank you, John. He said, you seem to be one of the more knowledgeable and informed guys on the Type 91. In fact, your videos made me buy a Wolf A1 initially a year or so ago. I have a minor issue and can't seem to find a solid answer. I recently converted my Wolf A1 to a proper mil-spec T91 with the barrel and sight block. I'm trying to find a quality folding rear sight to pair with the mil-spec gas block and front sight post. However, nobody can give me an actual answer. Other than HK 416 sights might work, and Troy Micro M4 sights might work. I don't want to know what might work. I want to know what will work. I'd hate to spend $100+ on a sight to find out it's not going to work for me. I plan on using it with red dots and magnifiers, so folding is a must. I'd love to use my T91 on the job. Bail enforcement. I really want to use the mil spec front sight as is and not opt for a higher sight post. Whew, that was a question.
Well, for the most part, you should be able to get I'm not sure what the current status of them is, but there's T91 parts. He brings in the parts from Taiwan. He did have a folding backup sight. I chose to go with the detachable carrying handle because that's just the way that I'm leaving it. I have other guns that I shoot with the, with folding sights with optics and so forth. Now, if you do get the GI front sight post in there, it may work. I'm not sure because I have not messed with it, and quite frankly, I sort of can't because the carrying handle that I got for mine, I ended up going through a couple of them because the threads were so soft where the nuts were to attach the carrying handle to the upper receiver that they would, as you would tighten them, they would strip out and it'd be no good. So I ended up having to send 2 of them back. Finally got one, and then I put Loctite on it and screwed it on, hand tight. That was it, so it wouldn't strip out. So I can't even really test that for you, unfortunately. But if you go to the T91 parts guy, he should be able to provide you with one of those. And another one is Michiko. I do believe he has the folding sight on his. So check out his video on that as well on the T91, and he may have some information on there for you as well. But unfortunately, didn't mind being Loctited on. I can't really do any testing there for you. But it is its own animal.
Gary says, "Is that your shoulder or an elbow?" It's a shoulder. Mr. 762, just to thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you so much. Tyler on DonorBox, I got lucky and bought a Colt M4A1 2 weeks ago before the announcement last year. What are your thoughts on it over the FN? Also, where can I find a proper UID? As an engineer in the defense industry, I really appreciate the format and content. Thank you, Tyler.
Well, the Colt's going to be definitely far closer than any of the FNs because you're going to get the proper markings for the most part on the Colts, depending on when that was made or who you may have the C on the bolt carrier or the MPC on the bolt. I'm not sure. It just depends on what parts they had at the time. But you will have a Colt marked barrel, whether it's with the cage code or the C. You don't get any of that with the FN. You don't get any of the FN marks, period. So, anything you get by Colt's going to be far closer to the real thing than what you're going to get from FN.
And Steve, thank you. I got your donation as well. I'll be looking for your question tonight for sure. And now I'm going to...
Did I fully answer his question?
He asked about UIDs. Did you answer that?
The UID, if you go to my M4 clone video that I did, that's where I got the UIDs, the guy's name, and I think his contact information's on that video. I haven't gotten any in a few years, so I don't really remember anymore. But they're not very uncommon. But if you go to that video, and it will tell you the name and the place where I got them from.
Greetings from Utah. You have a really great channel for a bearded guy. At least Heather is a lovely woman just hiding again.
Yep.
Yeah, I keep telling him how lovely I am. He needs to hear that more. What's your opinion on the Zenith MP5 clones?
I don't have one because I haven't been able to get my hands on one. I have sent multiple requests to get some Zenith clones, including their HK93 clone, and they do not ever return. They've never returned phone calls. So not for not trying. I have been trying to get their guns in. I also, for quite a while ago, I was able to get some of the ZQI ammunition from Turkey as well. I can't get that anymore either. So any of the contacts that I've tried to make have just come up, unheard. So unfortunately, I can't answer that because I can't get my hands on one.
Oh, Brandon's in.
Hey, Brandon.
Hey, Brandon. Hopefully you're drinking. That always makes things interesting. Have you heard any update for the 6.8 Army bid? I don't understand them changing, let alone change it from a 5.56.
No, this is way in the future. You're not going to be seeing anything anytime soon with this. This is still in preliminary phases. It's not anywhere near to actual adoption because you can adopt a cartridge fine, but now you got to adopt a weapon. and go through that program. This is nothing that's going to happen in the near future. This is a ways out. 5.56 and the M4 are not going anywhere for a long time.
Wayne says Heather is a lovely woman. Thank you, Wayne.
Yes, she is.
I'm going to keep pointing that out to him tonight. He needs to hear it. I had to wear a mask to get a bottle of wine. Hey, you know, at least with the wine, that's got to be some kind of cleanser. What do they say? That alcohol kills all the germs?
I did get something rather interesting. I probably can show this without getting into too much trouble. The new HK Gen 3 magazine. And I have to say, I'm very, very impressed with it until you look at the price tag. It is a very nice magazine, but it is surely not worth $70 a pop. Unfortunately, there's only one person bringing them in. That's Arms Unlimited, and they're certainly taking advantage of that fact. And they're selling these things for $70. HK didn't sell magazines for anywhere near that. But talking to H&K, they have no intention of bringing any of these magazines in. So, unfortunately, if any of you guys are going to want these magazines, you're going to have to go to Arms Unlimited, and you're going to spend a premium. As nice as they are not worth $70. No way in hell. But it's a neat magazine.
Carrie says, we know Chris is drinking something from Whataburger. Heather, what are you drinking tonight? Whataburger tea. If you were to assemble an AR-15 with hand-picked components, how much would you spend minus optics? Would a heavy barrel, which heavy barrel would you pick?
I would go with a medium contour cold hammer forged barrel like FN or one of the ones from Centurion Arms. And a lot of you guys like to go with this as light as possible, but for a combat rifle, that's not the way to go. The guns will overheat quickly. If you have to use them for any kind of sustained engagement, they will overheat quickly. You'll have failures to extract, so that's not a good idea. You want to go with at least a medium, or even a heavy is not a bad idea. But if you look at my video I did on building the perfect AR, you'll see what kind of parts that I looked at and why I chose them. A lot of stuff has to do with personal preference, of course, but there are reasons why I chose each individual part. So I probably recommend you go to that rather than trying to go through all those right now, because all your questions are answered in that video.
It used to be if you walked into a liquor store wearing a mask, the clerk would pull up a shotgun. Actually, as this whole mask thing is going, I actually thought about that too. I was like, it'd be very hard to tell who's masked to come to rob you anymore, since we have this 30 days where everybody has to wear a mask. Matthew, thank you. Any thoughts on the SIG 277 Fury round and the ability to generate 80,000 PSI chamber pressure?
I haven't messed with it yet. Of course, those kind of pressures scare me to death. Make sure the guns are built for it. But if I do recall, that's built up in a bolt action, so they can do a little bit more work to make that safer. But it's not something that I have messed around with yet. There are so many of these cartridges that come and go. I mean, if you look at the 224 Valkyrie, I'm talking about something that died a quick death. I mean, I think that was really popular for a year. Now nobody is even really talking about it anymore. So we'll just have to wait and see where that goes.
Apparently, we have some dislikes already. Somebody was asking what's about the dislikes. So everybody go click the thumbs up button and let's get rid of some of the dislikes. Joseph says the bottle of wine was for his wife, but he gets a glass. That's nice. I don't share. Sometimes I do. I'm like, do you want a glass of
I'm not much of a drinker,
No.
But occasionally I don't mind it.
Is the POF Revolution durable in hard use enough, considering its small size and shoots at 308?
I'm still very skeptical on the bolt. The bolt scares the hell out of me, how much material's been taken off of it, knowing what kind of pressures are on there. I'm sure Frank DeSama's done a lot of testing on it, but it's something that still makes me nervous. I don't own a POF Revolution, so obviously it's not something that I'm testing. I'd love to see one that would go through a 6,000 round test and see how the bolt holds up. Those are mechanical concerns I have. Whether they would come to fruition or not with testing, I don't know. But it's not something that I would want to have as a go-to gun for myself at this moment, knowing that. But for target gun. I'm sure it's fine. I'd love to, anybody who's got one, I'd love to keep me up to date on how they're holding up.
DBN, have you ever spent any time with the old ZM Weapons AR-15 with the folding stock and its unique buffer system?
If that's the one I think that was done by, I'm not trying to remember the manufacturer for that, but this one is no longer in production. I'm pretty sure I know which one you're talking about. I had some of you guys ask me about that particular rifle, and I had gone out trying to find it, and it was no longer in production. So I was unable to get my hands on one. So I don't really have much to say about it because I tried finding one, but I couldn't.
Thank you, Justin. Thoughts on solid copper bullets? Could the Mark 262 be improved with a solid copper projectile? Some research I've been doing, a lot of hunters prefer them.
The differences between the two of them is that the copper bullet's not going to fragment. It's going to hold. It's going to open up, but it's going to hold its weight. The Mark 262, once it does hit, it yaws. It comes apart at the cantilure, and it creates multiple wound channels. Which on a human target, that's what you want to do. It's designed specifically for precision accuracy and anti-personnel type. The solid copper bullets are more of a hunting round. I think it's more geared towards a hunter for game, and it's good for barriers. But I think as a defense cartridge on a human target, I think you're better off with the Mark 262. I got quite a bit of ammunition. It is the 70 grain, solid copper GMX or whatever, and it's definitely good ammunition. It certainly has its place. One of the benefits of the Mark 262 is you add the accuracy with the terminal performance, and that's the two differences when you're talking about human targets. But if you're talking about anything bigger, certainly the copper bullet would be better.
Hey, Anon.
Hey, Anon.
Mary wants to know what AK that is. I see over Chris's shoulder.
Oh, I don't have an AK over my shoulder. That's a SIG 5.56, but I don't have any AKs. Oh, okay. No, that's the Rifle Dynamics. Okay, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, that's. I'm hoping over the next couple of weeks to get to the range. I finally get to work on that one. I've had that one, throughout this whole quarantine thing. So I just got the red dots sight on it. It's ready to go. I got the suppressor for it, ready to go. Just gotta get out to the range.
Daniel Defense, Mark 18 upper. What buffer is needed?
H. I haven't seen any heavy barrel ones that are actually used by anybody in the real world for Mark 18, other than a Colt FBI.
Should all fighting guns have a white light on them? I'm curious of your opinion.
It's definitely good, but I think what you're seeing more of in the real world is the use of night vision with laser pointers. And with those kind of floodlights, it's a far safer bet than showing your position. I think for law enforcement, it's probably good because they're going through a lot of buildings. I think it's important for you to be able to identify your target. So I definitely say that it would be something you should have on there. Yeah, but I think a lot more people are moving more towards the night vision with the laser pointers. It's just like that's what everybody's been getting into these days.
Do you have any plans on covering LMT's virtual baffle suppressors? There's very little coverage about them.
I do, but unfortunately, they're getting. I haven't worked for LMT in 5 years or so, so I can't just have them send me products anymore. I guess I have to go through dealers and all that kind of stuff, and it's extremely difficult for me because I don't have an FFL. I work with an FFL to get loaners on sound suppressors. It's a very difficult thing to do. So that's why mostly that you see are silencer code, because that's what I own. That's what I use. Not saying it's never going to happen, but it will be an extreme challenge to try to make that happen.
And before I forget, I want to tell everybody that we did come up with a few new t-shirt designs, and they are on our teespring.com/smallarmsolutions. The link should be under the videos as well, but there's 3 new shirt designs. And the one was a collaborative effort of an M4 that Chris had that I was able to Photoshop in silhouette.
New Zealand rifle.
And he thought of putting pieces measured in meters underneath, and then I put the logo in the gun. And they look good, and there's some different options. Some of you guys, I don't remember who it was specifically, but they wanted to see, watch your feet. They wanted to see shirts with logos on the back, like a larger logo on the back instead of the front. So we have two options where there's a large logo on the back, and then there's a small logo that he liked for the front. He has one with a bolt face on it because he has a bolt face tattoo. And then we have one that, this is my peace sign. That's the crosshairs, the
M16 iron sights.
And then we have pieces measured in meters, and that has a small logo within the gun, but not a large logo on the back. But those are there if you guys want to check those out, because I know you wanted some different ones. Is Chris riding the prancing pony? Carrie, I told you, if you get me the graphic of Chris riding a pony, I will put it on a shirt. But there's a lot of things I do that I didn't think that I could do. I don't even know how to even create that. It would be interesting to see for sure. Bought a Beretta 92 with a Laser Max laser installed. What are your thoughts on these? Any problems?
I was part of the development team for that one, believe it or not. That was probably around 1994. We just finished up at Laser Max, the SIG and the Glock, the standard sights. The Beretta was going to be the next one. I had flown from Rochester to Accokeek, Maryland, me and one of the engineers. We sat with the guys at the engineers at Beretta. We bought actual, this is something latch release levers from them to machine out ourselves to have the latch put in. We went to the armor school there also. When we got back, the development went to work. I worked on the mechanical end, and they worked on the electronical end. That was the first laser sight that we had. We used the factory recoil spring. So you used your normal spring. You wouldn't have to get some rocket wire that wasn't nearly as good as the original. So you had the original one. The consistency of the Beretta was incredible for as far as the way that the laser sits into the frame, because it's the frame where the recoil spring goes in. That's what centers everything, the way that that's made in there. And believe it or not, the tolerances on the SIG were the worst. The polymer frames on the Glock was far more consistent from gun to gun than Glock was too. Glock was much better than the SIG. And we knew that because we took pin gauges and we went to local distributors. I believe that was RSR at the time. Got like 30 guns of each, went in there with pin gauges, and to see what the tolerances were between that. So the Beretta was very, very good. And I can tell you that specific laser, I did the mechanical testing on, and with that, the cap and that tube and that spring, well, the spring we changed out every 5,000 rounds. We had over 29,000. Was it 29,000? 10,000. Well, I'm trying to remember now. The very first article I wrote was on the test I did on that. 20,000 rounds it was, 24,000 rounds, something along those lines. And we had no failures of the laser tube or the spring guide or anything. We had to replace the springs, and that was it. So the durability of the gun was never compromised with the design. And we did the testing to make sure. 20,500 it was. That was where we broke the locking block at around 19,000. And that was a Gen 1 locking block too. That wasn't the new ones that we have out right now. But it was an extremely durable design, accurate as can be. Generally, if you had something that was really wrong with the gun, for as far as the way that compartment where the recoil spring went, and say it was off or whatever, you may have to send the gun into Laser Max to have them custom make you one for your particular gun, which was no big deal, because all they did was they'd stick your gun in the fixture and then plop in the bore sight, and then they would just adjust it over to your specific gun. But I haven't seen any in years. But that was the one project that I saw from beginning to end, and had a lot of influence on it.
Matthew on Donor Box, thank you, Matthew. Any experience or thoughts on the Michigan's Is it Michigan's OCK's gas key screws?
I did have some that were sent to me. I believe it was by this gentleman. They certainly were an improvement over the standard ones, the way that they were done. If you have access to them, I think they're certainly a better option than the standard mil spec ones. He's got some aggressive, outer texture to them where they hold it, better. If you have access to those, I certainly would recommend them if you have access to them.
Thank you, Soho. Remington Defense M4A1 Socom barrels are $180 on CDNN. I would love to see a review.
I would too. I have never had access to one. You guys have asked me about these quite a bit, but I've never actually seen one. Hopefully, one of you guys at some point will send me one to take a look at, do some shooting with, and see what the quality is. Remington, they've always been known to make very good barrels, and I would expect those were basically government type barrels with button cut and so forth. But anything I would say would be skeptical, and it's not. I don't like doing it. I like to only talk to you guys about stuff that I have experience with. Hopefully, at some point, I will have access to one to run some tests through.
Matthew Wolf, thank you. How did you like the Stag Arm Stag 10 in 6.5 Creedmoor?
Stag is quite well. I was very pleased. That was the first time I got a gun in from Stag. 6.5 Creedmoor. I don't do it justice because the range I use is only out to 200 yards. The only time I ever had the opportunity with 6.5 Creedmoor was another range that we had out here that I knew somebody who was a membership, and they went out to 1,000 yards. And the Core 15 rifle shot MOA at 1,000 yards. It shot quite well. Unfortunately, when we had the Stag, I didn't have access to a range that was that long. But Stag has always made very decent firearms.
HK 416 or SIG 516 for go to war gun. Which do you think is better?
Well, the SIG 516 was a update over the 416. Now, I'm going to tell you the SIG just because of the fact that the SIG uses a lot of factory parts. They use a lot of OEM type parts. They more normal AR parts, where these HK is completely proprietary. So you're using a regular AR bolt in the SIG, a regular AR fire control group. Most of those parts are standard AR-15, M16 parts, where you're going to be able to get spare parts for it. That's so true with the HK 416. For the amount of money that you have to spend to buy the 416 over the SIG, you could buy yourself a shit ton of spare parts, bolts, and all those kind of things to have. So I think the SIG 516 would be a much better way to go.
Jared said he's ordering his Centurion Mark 12 next week.
You will absolutely love it. You will absolutely love it.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say anything bad about Centurion.
Well, you're going to see some.
Knock on wood.
You're going to see some Centurion stuff coming up. I just got one of his recce rifles in, so I just have to get to the range with it so I get some targets. But you're going to see the recce rifle coming up, and you're also going to be seeing one of his 308s in the not too distant future as well. So you're going to be seeing some new ones. And it's at some point when this stuff's all over with, Monty's going to be coming out here to see us in Texas, and we're going to be doing some Q&As and some videos with him. And he's an awesome guy. You guys are going to love him.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and plop down the codes for Centurion in case anybody would like those. There's 3 separate codes. You have a code for complete rifles to take 3% off, uppers and lowers 5% off, and then everything else on their website is 10% off. So you can save a little coin when y'all are shopping with your stimulus money.
And he's got all M-Lock handguards too available now.
And they're a family business too. They're husband and wife too. So. Harry, thank you. Should I worry about ejection pattern as far as over and under gas and buffer weights, or just be content with proper ejection and bolt lock?
Proper. If you were to have issues with any kind of failures to eject, or so, then I would worry about it. But if your gun's working properly, I would leave it alone. Especially if the gun came that way from the factory. If it's something that you built, then you might want to take a look at what parts you have in it. But if the gun came that way from the manufacturer, I would leave it alone unless there is a problem.
Thank you. How did you like the hip-fired trigger on the Caracal 814 Patrol?
Mine didn't have one in it. Mine had a regular trigger in it. But I have many hip-fired triggers, and it happens to be one of my favorite of all. I prefer single-stage triggers on combat rifles. I prefer double-stage triggers on DMR type rifles or more precision. And there's so many benefits that go along with hip-fire design, such as having a light trigger without sacrificing a light weight on the hammer, which would cause you to have light ignition. It's a very well thought out. The guy who designed it was brilliant. They are expensive, but you get what you pay for. You have the ability to have 3 different trigger pulls because it comes with 3 different sets of springs. If you like single stage triggers, this is literally the ultimate in single action trigger for an AR or anything that takes an AR trigger.
What are your thoughts on the Bourgh TS12?
Don't have one yet. It's something that I've got on order. I've been trying to get a Tavor 7 for last couple of years. I haven't had any luck with that. I'm working with a Masada right now. I'm working on a 3,000 round endurance test. But I don't even know if those are available in the country yet. I don't think that they are, because I don't know if they're building them here yet. Hopefully at SHOT Show hopefully it'll still be going on this year or next year. And if they do, I will be going this time, and we will be talking to these guys about some of these things.
Yeah, right before everything happened, we put $4,000 down on a hotel so that he could be at Venetian for SHOT Show. So non-refundable prepayment. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also had a trip for Italy in October too. So there's a lot of things up in the air. Thoughts on 6.5 Grindle as a long range cartridge?
That's an excellent long range cartridge. I prefer the 6.8 over it more, just because it's more practical. The 6.5 Grindle for a range gun, I think, is excellent. It's not what you would call a assault rifle cartridge that's designed for a selective fire rifle. I had worked with a company in the past who had a Scandinavian customer who was interested in putting that into an assault rifle, and we very significant difficulty getting it to cycle in fully automatic because of the shape of the cartridge in the magazine. I think for a range toy, it's good. For a real world practical, probably not so much, unless you're just a hunter. Not much of a military application, but it's probably more for a hunter or for a precision shooter.
Thoughts on LWRC 45 SMG or 45 ACP as a subgun cartridge?
I supposedly have one coming to me. I've had one on order for several months now. They're looking into it for me to see when they can get me one. Of course, with all this coronavirus, everybody's having a hard time getting product out because they're running on skeleton crews. But you will be seeing one for review on this channel just as soon as I can get my hands on one. I have a very good relationship with those guys over LWRC. I've written armor's manuals and operator's manuals for them. So I have no doubt that I will be having one as soon as they can get me one.
For the gentleman that was asking for the proper website for Centurion because he couldn't find it in a Google search, I just popped that down on the line for you. Yeah, it's centurionarms.com. But that link's there. Where can I get that AR-15 magazine well stand you display your rifles on in videos?
That's Brownells.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Brownells. They have them right where, if you go into where they have all the cleaning supplies, it's right in there. That's basically what it is. It's not really a display; it's for cleaning. So if you're taking it out to the range and you need scrub the barrel or whatever, it's what it's for. It just happens to work very well for for displays.
Is a SCAR 17 worth the money in terms of reliability and long-term value over an AR-10 build?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The precision accuracy of a proper AR-10 will outshoot it. If you go on Henry Chan's videos, if you look at his video he did on the SCAR 17, it was quite disappointing in the accuracy. I think the amount of money you have to pay, you have to worry about magazines. They're proprietary. You have to worry about the harmonics destroying your optics. You have to worry about that big awkward shape. No, I own both. I own a SCAR 17S, and I own AR-10s, and I have several different ones. And to me, no way. I would definitely take a good SR-25 or LMT AR-10 type over that in a heartbeat. It's decent as an assault rifle, as a selective fire assault rifle, as long as you don't mind going through optics. It still had some issues with stocks breaking. That's not fully over yet. But there's not a lot of scopes that work really well with that. I've got the Elcan Spectre on mine. Elcan claims that that the harmonics from the Scar 17 will not hurt that optic. But no, it's a neat gun and all, but where the metal meets the meat, I think I would be staying with the AR-10 type.
Manuel on Donor Box, thank you. I have a standard AR barrel which has some slight nicks. Will regular spray paint do for the protection against rust, or should I do more?
No, if you go to Birchwood Casey Gun Blue, and it's bluing salts, and that'll get into it'll basically reblue it, so you're not going to have the corrosion issues. You start using regular old spray paint, first off, you're probably going to cook it off, and even if you don't, it's going to be more prone to rust because it's not going to seal it like it's supposed to. But Birchwood Casey, and it's a gun blue. Just like for you guys who have ARs that you have problems with scratches in the aluminum receivers, aluminum black, that takes care of that stuff as well. That's how you fix the scratches on those with the regular black guns.
Do you think a 6.5 cm can hold up to a 308 quote stopping power for precision guns in the Army? I've been hearing an older sniper saying it lacks the thumb on target. I know SF ordered 200 M110s and 6.5 cm.
Well, that might be his opinion, but that's not the consensus. Anything the 308 can do, the 6.5 Creedmoor can do better, longer, and more devastating. Having a higher velocity projectile, it makes up for the less mass. It shoots straight, it shoots straighter, and gives you longer distance. So, in my opinion, and from the consensus that I've seen from people I've talked to, anything that 308 can do, a 6.5 Creedmoor can do significantly better.
What's the difference between a Colt SMG DOE and the standard SMG?
The DOE has that short handguard, and it has this big flare bell on the end of it, so your hand doesn't slide over it. If you have a chance to take a look at my book, Black Rifle 2, you go to the Colt SMG section, and you'll see the DOE. The DOE never went into production other than for the Department of Energy. It was never offered. You can still see some spare parts out there these days, but it's not very common. It's actually rather rare. There's no front sight base like you have like on a regular SMG, but it has to do with the way the handguard is. And I do believe that had a shorter barrel too. The barrel was shorter, I think, 10.5 inches on that
one. Is there a chance of getting any rifles made by IRA, Iron Ridge Arms, more specifically their AR-10s? Supposedly they do custom work with most of their rifles.
Well, I have heard of them. I haven't really I didn't really seek them out yet, but something I could certainly look into.
Do the Hodge Defense rifles and barrels live up to their hype?
Don't know. I put some phone calls into them. It was definitely prior to this virus thing. They had not gotten back to me, so they are on my radar to get those guns here to do some reviews on, but I have not been able to make good contact with them yet.
I got a 10.5-inch barrel and wanted to know what flash hider or muzzle brake for it.
Oh, the Vortex, the Smith Enterprises Vortex is the best one you're going to get. Absolutely.
I just bought an LMT MLC 11.5 pistol with the Mars Lower Fantastic rifle. Your videos helped me a lot, and he's wanted one for a long time. I
think you'll maybe be very happy with it. It will serve you very well.
Is Centurion Arms making a 308 AR-10?
Yes, I know he's still working on the final touches on it, but yes, he is. And he's using the proper AR-10, not the DPMS pattern as well, so it's a stronger pattern.
In the Middle East, M16A2 4s and even M16A1s are often used as DMR roles by paramilitary groups. Where did the idea of the M16 being accurate come from?
Say it again.
Where did the idea of the M16 being accurate come from?
Oh, okay. That believe it or not, that started at Aberdeen Proving Grounds with the original AR-10. The original AR-10 was when it was being tested. In fact, one of the testers at Aberdeen told Gene Stoner and Mr. Dorchester that this was the most accurate semi-automatic rifle he ever saw, or he ever shot. It was very abnormally accurate for an autoloader. Unfortunately, that didn't make it in the final report because Ordnance Corps did not want that anything good said about the AR-10. So it goes way back to then. But when you started seeing rifles that would average under 1.5 MOA and sometimes around MOA with good ammunition, that's extremely accurate for a military rifle. Generally a military rifle, if you look at Warsaw pack standards, is under 6 MOA. And you're looking at rifles that are putting out an inch to 2, well under 2 inches, even with a bad rifle under 2 inches. So it's always had that reputation of being accurate, and that's with regular ball ammunition. And I think with the development of the Mark 12 with the Mark 262 ammunition, it really redefined it as a precision long-range rifle. The combination of the 77 grain OTM with the 1.7 18-inch barrel just made it basically into a match rifle for as far as the precision accuracy. So it's always been there because the gun, it was always inherently accurate. Being the internal piston, you didn't have anything interfering with its harmonics, especially you put a for free floating barrel on it. It's only gotten better over the years.
11 Bang Bang, thank you. How would M193 do versus, say, an M855 and a 14.5 inch M4?
Accuracy, you certainly would do better with the M855 because of the bullet weight, not the bullet projectile. For accuracy, the M193 will generally outperform the M855, but due to the fact that it's lighter and shorter range, it's going to lose a little bit of its energy a little bit quicker. But if you go back to the initial development of the M16A2, the initial XM855, they couldn't meet the accuracy standards with, but they could with the M193. The M855 as a round is not a very good round for accuracy because of its 3-piece design. You would see far better results if you were to go with a 62 grain full metal jacket instead of the M855. I think you would see a very close, very close, if not a little bit better with the 62 grain if you went with a full metal jacket where you didn't have the complexity of a 3-piece bullet.
Dylan from Patreon, he wants to thank you for answering all of his questions. He was the one who submitted a whole list of questions because he couldn't make the chat. I told you, he's like, I'm sure he'll definitely give it a shot to get a hold of him in. I'm glad that he was able to.
Well, you guys at that level of Patreon, you guys do great things for us. You help us out a lot, so we will make sure that we get all your questions answered.
He wanted to know what's up with the 8. Apparently, we already have 8 dislikes, and he said some people are bitches.
Don't know.
I don't know.
Seems like it's going well to me. I mean, we're staying with guns. We're talking about Whataburger versus In-N-Out and all that kind of crap. So
we did talk about Whataburger a little bit, but only because we have drinks from there. Well, just go hit the thumbs up. Balance it out. Best caliber in AR-15 for long distance shooting, and 6.5 Grindle maybe.
Well, I think 6.5 Grindle for as far as longer range would definitely supersede. I think be better than the 6.8 SPC. The 6.8 SPC just to me is a more practical round. It's a much more reliable round. It feeds better. Its practicality for ranges is better, and certainly its terminal performance I think is probably a little bit better too. But many experts out there claim that the 6.5 Grindle is probably one of the most accurate calibers.
Fair fight to the death, In-N-Out or Whataburger. And then Drew says the McRib is still better. It's the little things. Lost my spot. I dropped LMT's enhanced BCG in my MRP 10.5 inch and immediately had problems. Several double feeds with the first mag. Is the enhanced BCG not intended for the 10.5 inch? And what barrel length is best suited for it?
Well, it was specifically designed around the 14.5 and a 16. It's sort of strange because I've used them in 10.5 and I've never had a problem. I don't put them in 10.5. I generally will stick between 14.5 and 16 to put them in. Quite frankly, for a 10.5, I would stick with a standard bolt carrier and use the enhanced bolt. The enhanced bolt will have a much better life in that 10.5 inch barrel than the standard bolt will, just because eventually you're going to start getting some gas port erosion and you're going to have a relatively high cyclic rate. So the dwell time would be a little bit different with that one. I have used them in the past and I haven't had a problem, but that's not how I have my 10.5 set up with a standard, like I said, a standard LMT bolt carrier and a enhanced bolt.
What is your favorite iron sight?
I still like the Arms number 40Ls. They've always been an excellent sight. They're good. They're durable. I really liked his folding front sight. He had the A-frame folding front sight. That's probably one of my favorites. I also really like the Magpul M-Bus Pro. Those are excellent. The LMTs are very, very nice, and so are the Knights. Unfortunately, the Knights are just so damn expensive. The LMTs are sort of mid-range there for as far as price. Those are probably my favorites of all of them.
Springfield Armory released their 308 AR pistol today. Am I correct that there's too much caliber for a small of a platform? It sounds like a fire-breathing dragon.
It is. It's the same thing with. I did a review on American Tactical. They had a 450 Bushmaster pistol, which is absolutely asinine. I mean, you have to have some serious small man syndrome to have to go with something like that. It really is. 308s as a pistol, I think, is also a very bad idea. I have intents here, not too distant future, to SBR my LMT 308 lower receiver, and I want to put the 13.5-inch barrel that they have on there, and that's as small as I will go. And I would not put that in a pistol. That's going to be in a regular SBR. That's pretty much just a toy for the most part. I mean, up to a couple hundred yards, 300 yards or so, it'll be good, but beyond that, not much more. You're going to get a lot of unburnt propellant. You're going to get a hell of a muzzle flash. But as a pistol, no, I think, you get really above 300 blackout, 5.56, anything above that, I don't really think is that great as a pistol.
Is the LMT MRP weight detrimental to its efficiency?
No, it's a one-piece receiver. It's machined out of a solid block. That's why you maintain your accuracy, because you have a lot of material around there when everything's locked up. The weight on there it's all key to the way the system works. There's some things that you just can't make lighter and have work properly. And if you look at where that weight is, it's around where that the barrel gets locked in, but where the two cross bolts are. So it's designed to be as light as possible and be able to maintain that return to zero, maintain that accuracy that's got.
Gary's like, we haven't even discussed any big fun hunts. Why is there thumbs down? I mean, like some of those times I can see those, because people like, for the love of God, just talk about guns. M10X of the M+M Industries. Your thoughts about that rifle?
Love it. You will be seeing a video coming up on that one pretty soon. I've had one here for a while that we've had some issues with the barrel. There was an issue with a semi-spec barrel versus a CIP barrel. And the semi-spec barrel that I've had here, the accuracy was not where it needed to be. And Mike Myers, he's the gentleman that's the president of the company. I've been working with him. The mechanics of this gun that I've had here, I've probably had about 3,000 rounds through it, and mechanically the thing is flawless. The accuracy is just not where it should be. So I am waiting to get one of the proper CIP barrels that's AKs are supposed to be. It makes a big difference for as far as the way the chambers are. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of the military rifles that you see in 7.62x39, some of them are good, some of them are bad. It's not a NATO spec. It's our SAMI spec. It is a CIP spec. So I'm waiting for some of those barrels to come in, and he's going to replace the barrel on the one I got here, so we can get the accuracy that we should be getting. I had the accuracy issues straight out, but I want to see how the thing performed, because it was a very interesting system. So mechanically, it's great. I'm just waiting for a proper barrel.
Are there any updates on the issues that New Zealand was having with the LMT rifles? Have they disclosed the causes of the issues, and has there been problems since?
No, there's no problem since. The issue was it was heat treat. There's no question. It was heat treat with the firing pins. That's a process that's not done in-house by LMT, for the heat treat. And LMT now has that under control. They have a new processes that's involved in there, and I've not heard of any further instances. That again, I would hear if there's a problem, I'm sure, from somebody out there. But I've heard nothing since. In fact, everything I've heard from the guys from New Zealand, and there's some of you guys here from New Zealand, they're loving the rifles.
Adnan on donor box, thank you, Adnan. About the Taiwanese T91 rifle, since it's a short stroke external piston system, did the weapon ever have an issue with the cam pin on the bolt gouging into the upper receiver, or the carrier scrape against the buffer tube? Or did the manufacturers develop a method of addressing those issues that other modern external piston ARs have had to deal with?
No, they're the same issues. I can tell you the one that I've got here, that I've got only about 1,000 rounds. You'll see some of that, the cam pin slot. You'll see that there. To be honest with you, I haven't checked out the buffer tube, but I imagine you would have the issues there. It's the same issues that they've had all along, except as far as the cam pin damage to the receiver, once that hits a certain level, it stops. It's not detrimental to the gun at all. It just doesn't look as nice as you'd like it to. And as far as the carrier tilt, it takes a hell of a lot of rounds to get to that where it's going to be a problem. So I'm sure armorers in Taiwan know about that issue, and they would be checking it when they would do overhauls. But it's the same. It doesn't matter what the weapon system is. If it's this platform using external piston, you're going to have that cam pin that damage, and you're going to have carrier tilt unless you have something like the POF system, where you have the ascent of the bolt carrier already into the receiver extension before it fires. So there's no jump. So that's the best way to deal with that. But again, you're looking at a lot of rounds before it becomes a problem. A lot of rounds, probably more than most of you guys will ever shoot.
They want to refer to as Gun Santa. Since Ian is Gun Jesus, then you would be Gun Santa.
Mm.
I'm trying to decide on my next optic, and I'm having a hard time choosing between an EOTech XPS, EXPS, Aimpoint PRO, or Trigicon MRO. What would you suggest?
I have all.
We had this question last week too.
Yeah. I'm still thinking possibly the Trigicon might be the better way to go, just because the damn things are made bomb proof. But the EOTech holographic, I mean, they're all good. They're all good ones. You wouldn't fail with it. You would never regret any of them. But the Trigicon probably is the one that's opened up enough that I probably would prefer.
Thoughts on the Vortex UH1 as an EOTech replacement?
I'm quite fond of it. I did a lot of shooting with that optic, and it certainly is something that could replace an EOTech. It's a little large compared to most, but you get a nice wide field of view. Yeah, I would not hesitate at all about having that replace one.
What is your opinion on the Colt Mars, the mini assault rifle system? Is it a good solution for short barrel lengths, or is it too much of a compromise?
No, not at all. The Mars was an incredible project. That was a true PDW, a 5.56 by 30. The whole concept of the Mars was to have a PDW that you could win a battle with an AK-47 on, and that allowed you to do that. Unlike the 5.7, unlike the 4.6 cartridges that were generally the PDW cartridges that were smaller. It was an excellent design. You had excellent power in it. There was not really anything negative about it. It was, we've talked about this in the past, that the Israelis wanted to buy a good number of those, but in the end, Colt decided they didn't want to sell it because they didn't want to compete with their M4. So I guess you could say that they were ahead of their time because PDWs just weren't popular. They were, but again, Colt was set up to make mass numbers. They were mass production. They mass produced their M4. They got it so it was inexpensive, so they could do it. They did not want to do any small runs. It's really a shame they didn't turn that over to Dymaco at the time, because Dymaco could have got that going. But then again, you wouldn't have been able to import the stuff here in the United States anyways, unfortunately. But the 5.56 by 30 Mars cartridge was an excellent cartridge, and it was not a gimmick. It was something that really had a place. And I hope someday to see it come back.
I hear a lot of people saying that the front of a flashlight should be mounted flush with the end of the muzzle brake flash suppressor barrel. Wouldn't this destroy the flashlight? What are your thoughts?
Oh no, I have mine generally are behind, and I do that because the closer you get, the more you're going to get uh, gas and everything on the lens that's going to put a film on it. But no, these are designed for that concussion. But you should never have. I don't think it in front of. It should always be behind the muzzle.
About the individual named Arthur Miller who scaled down the AR-16 that was chambered in 308 down to the AR-18. Did you ever have the chance to meet him when researching for your book?
No, it wasn't just him. It was also Jim Sullivan, and Jim Sullivan I had. Um, Mr. Miller, he was really pissed off at the failure of that. In fact, that caused him to actually leave Armalite. They put a lot into that. So that was unfortunate. But I never had an opportunity to talk to him, but just to Mr. Sullivan, I have.
Which NGSW firearm looks most promising?
Where's that?
NGSW, right here.
Unfortunately, that's escaping me at the moment, that acronym.
Give me a look. The Next Generation Squad Weapons Program.
Oh. It's hard for me to say because I've never seen any up close. I don't know how they function, so it's really hard to say. I certainly do like the SIG concept. I think is certainly a good concept. But again, it's something that, without knowing how they actually work and what their testing is like, it's hard to even say. I guess I can't really say I have a favorite one. I do like the way the SIGs are made, but that goes without knowing if it's going to be reliable or not.
Did we do this one?
Yes.
Okay. Make sure I didn't miss it. Why did Colt change the finish on the SP2 from the XM gray of the SP1s?
There's been a generational changes. If you look at the the original XM gray, then you go to the more of a charcoal gray, matte charcoal gray of the A1s. Then you get to a point where you get sort of a charcoal green, and then from there you go to the current jet black. It just was. You know what? I guess I can't give you a reason for it. For instance, if you look at tobacco in Canada, up until probably, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even a little bit more, up until then, they were still using the original XM gray that they were using all along. It wasn't really until the M4 became available in that time period, a little bit after that, I probably would say the late 90s, is when you saw this jet black come back in. Why it changed, I don't know. It's amazing for those of you who are trying to build retro guns. You know that now it's almost impossible to find a company that knows how to do those early colors. But you'll see rifles with uppers and lowers that don't match, of course, but as long as they fit on this color palette, which goes from the gray to the black, as long as they're somewhere inside of there, they're acceptable. The actual reasoning, I have no idea. There's never anybody actually said this is what we're doing.
Well, I think that's it for tonight. Thank you guys for joining us. We will not be here next week. I will pull your question, Mo. We will not be here next week. I am going to take a few days off and for Mother's Day and get a break. So we won't be doing a Q&A next week. But if you guys have questions outside of the chat tonight, all we ask is that you make a donation on Donor Box and put your question in the comment section and it'll come to us. We do that 7 days a week. So even though I'm taking off, I'll absolutely still get those out to you within a few hours. Mo wants to know, checked out the Beretta 92X yet? I have one and noticed the hammer spring is smaller than the standard one found on the previous model 92s.
I have not been able to get my hands on one. As you guys know, I'm a Beretta fan. I would just hope to have one of you guys send me one at some point so I can do a review. Beretta, I've just not had any luck at all with those guys sending me anything for review.
Where are you going? You can't do anything. I know, right? Well, thank you guys for coming in, and everybody stay safe and
take care.
Stay healthy. Say bye, Chris.
Goodbye. Thank you.